past few years, this item has become very popular for decorations in homes. In this house. And we started back in 1st of May, In This House We series. And we talked about in this house we serve the Lord. And in this house we submit to one another. Mother's Day we talked about in this house we celebrate Mom. When we think about in this house, we speak about values. We speak about the things that this is what we want to see happening, the character of our home. And here's one, for instance. It says, in this house, we are real. We make mistakes. We say, I'm sorry. We give hugs. We have fun. We give second chances. We forgive. We do really loud. That's our home. We are patient. We love. And then here's another design. And there's quite a few different designs and different words. In this house, we do second chances. We do grace. We do real. We do mistakes. We do I'm sorry. We do hugs. We do love. We do family. In this house, we do second chances. We do football. We do real. We do mistakes. We do I'm sorry. We do loud. Really well. There it is again. We do hugs and kisses. We do family. We do love. In this house, this is just kind of a generic one, but check the wording out on this one. We are real. We make mistakes. We have fun. We're respectful. We say I'm sorry. We always tell the truth. We give hugs. We speak kindly. We say thank you. We dream big. We keep our promises. We are patient. We do our best. We're grateful. Pretty good list right there. It's kind of plain, but it's got some great words on it. This one gets real specific. The Peterson family. We do truth. We do mistakes. We do I'm sorry. We do second chances. We work hard and we play harder. We do prayers. That's the first one I've seen of that one. We do forgiveness. We do respect. We do laughter. We do loud, and in parentheses, really well. We are a family and we do love. This one, in this house, we do second chances. We do grace. We do mistakes. We do real. We do I'm sorry. We do loud, really well. Something about that one just keeps coming up on it really well. We do hugs, we do love, we also do family. And then I like this one because how they placed it in their home. So that everyone can see it. It's painted on the wall. In this house we are real, we make mistakes, we say I'm sorry, we have fun, we do second chances, we give hugs, we forgive, we do really loud, we are patient, we love, we are family. I don't know if one other than that really loud one stands out, but there was one phrase that got used over and over and over and over in every one of these. We do mistakes. We do mistakes. We do mistakes. Did you notice that? On every one of them, there's this thing. We do mistakes. And as I looked at the one that we have in our house, there, right in the middle, we do mistakes. And that got me thinking about, well, is there ever been a home that's mistake-free? None. Is there a home that seems to be the Hall of Fame homes for mistakes? Well, there is one. It's a TV show. Anybody ever watch Home Improvement? Tim Allen? Yeah. Just enjoy the next few minutes of some mistakes. by the way. There's a couple that really stand out. And watch this next one. Of all of those, I had to go back, I go, that episode, of all the episodes they were ever a part of, talk about making a mistake. If you saw this one, you remember, that's Jill's car, her prized Nomad. She loves this car. And Tim dropped a beam right across it. And then blamed her. Told the mechanic she did it. Now, when we think about making mistakes, I think in this house, there I go again. In this house, Tim would be the top of we make mistakes. We make mistakes. Now, I got a question for you this morning. When you see that statement, in this house, we make mistakes. How does that hit you? How does that impact you? What are your thoughts to see in that statement? We make mistakes. Here's my first thought when I see that statement, and again, it's right here. So I saw this in my house. A lot of this came from a Bible study that told us to look around our house and see what we had that was conveying messages, and all of a sudden I knew we had this there, but I never really read it. I read this thing and one of the statements is very clearly, we do mistakes. How do I feel about reading about a statement that says we do mistakes? Well, number one, I identify with it. I greatly identify with we make mistakes. I am culprit number one on that one. Guilty as charged. Listen, our sermon can go on and on and on. I've got my own Tim Allen highlights. The Dwayne Carson highlights of, we make mistakes. I'm glad Bill's not here today. Please don't tell him that there was a day where I put oil in the gasoline compartment of the chainsaw and gasoline in the oil compartment of the chainsaw. You know, if you put oil where the gas goes and gas where the oil goes, it won't run. I was going to try to play that off that I heard that, but I think if I told it, you would have gone, he knows that from first-hand experience. So I'm just telling you the truth. I did that one time. I'm like, that's just dumb. There's other words too. I mean, it's just stupid. But I did that. And so I identified with this. Listen, I could never identify with this statement. In this house we do perfection. I could never identify with that. We've been very clear in our home. Our children have a right to expect perfection from their parents if they are perfect. And I have a right to expect perfection from my children if I'm perfect. Well, you know what? We don't do perfection. There's no way I could ever look at a statement on it and go, in this home, we do perfection. That doesn't work. And not only that, I can never identify in a house that says we prevent mistakes. Now, I'm not for mistakes, but listen, there's no way. If I got up every day with the thought, we're going to prevent every mistake, every mistake, every mistake. You know, coaching, and you guys can tell Dan this, that if a coach ever tells his team not to make a mistake, that was a mistake. Because the moment you tell a team we can't make any mistakes, we just raise the tension to a level where they're going to now make mistakes. I can't say I'm going to prevent mistakes. And I could live in a house that says, in this house we avoid mistakes. If I try to live in a house that says we're going to always avoid mistakes, then everybody becomes paralyzed and we don't do anything. And you know what? A lot of great inventions came because somebody made a mistake. Risk-taking is higher where mistakes are welcomed. I couldn't say we avoid mistakes. I identified with this statement. How about you? I mean, what do you think about right now? Your story of the gasoline and the oil. You've got them. You've done them. You made the mistake. Listen, I've heard people speaking make mistakes. Like the time Jerry Falwell said Moses was told by God to take off his feet. Now think about that for a moment. Dr. Falwell, I don't think God told him to take his feet off. It happens. So we're going to make mistakes. We make mistakes. But listen, while I identify with it, I also want you to know something this morning. And maybe this is where you were right off the bat. I take issue with it. I mean, I read that statement. We do mistakes, and I'm like, no, we don't. No, we don't. I don't like thinking we do mistakes. I don't want us to be making mistakes. I'm against mistakes. I don't want mistakes being made. I don't want to make mistakes. I don't want my kids making mistakes. I don't want my wife making a mistake. In our home, we don't do mistakes. I take issue with it. And I guess some of it comes from, there was a situation that kind of raised this to a new level for me. At Liberty, we had a parent orientation, and we'd have this every semester. So this is happening twice a year, and every time we go in and we're telling what we do, this gentleman got up and said, I want all of you to know we make mistakes. And the way he conveyed it was, you guys should not expect excellence from us. And I'm like, stop telling them we make mistakes. Now, we make mistakes, but I don't need you telling them, like, hey, we're waving a flag over here. We make mistakes, and guess what's going to happen? You're going to have a lot of mistakes. We're going to mess up, and everything's going to go wrong for your kid while they're in school. I'm like, don't say it that way. So when I see the statement, we do mistakes, I kind of take issue with it because I don't want to be a person who is accepting them. And I could have never identified with a statement that says we accept mistakes. I identify that it happens, but I am not going to accept that we are okay with it. If I'm coaching a team, I know we're going to make mistakes, but I don't want us to make mistakes. I don't want to see that happening, so I take issue with it. So in this house, we do mistakes. That's not an acceptance. It's just an acknowledgement. And you know what? In every one of our homes, we've got mistakes going on. And here's where the rubber starts hitting the road this morning for all of this beginning stuff. We have to deal with mistakes. We have to deal with our mistakes, and we have to deal with the mistakes of others. That is part of life. And it doesn't matter what our age is, we're going to have to deal with it. So what's going to be our attitude? What's going to be our actions toward our mistakes and the mistakes of others? How are we going to respond this morning? I'm going to throw a few things to you. We're going to bring some scriptures into you to see, because folks, here's where the rubber meets the road. We're all doing relationships. And how we handle people's mistakes and how we handle our mistakes is going to determine how we keep relationships moving forward or whether we're going to find relationships dissolving. And God's Word wants these relationships being healthy. In our home, we do mistakes. What is that really going to mean? Well, number one this morning, dealing with mistakes, define the mistake. Just get real with it now. Part of that right now gives me an opportunity to say, let me define mistakes. What I'm talking about this morning is not necessarily the thing we call sin. That needs to be called sin. Many times we will say, I made a mistake, but what we did was we sinned. And there are going to be times where the mistake is a sin, it's got to be dealt with. But I'm looking for just those normal routine. The reason I did the Tim Allen, there are things that happen, but it causes a reaction. And when we look at our mistakes, the things we do, I would say the number one mistake that most of us make in our home is we forget something. And that's not necessarily a sin. But the thing that's got me in more trouble as a husband has been, I forgot what Danita asked me to do. And that was a mistake. I forgot. Now sometimes we drop stuff. Sometimes we trip over stuff. Those things happen. But usually we're forgetting something. But define the mistake. And in defining the mistake, I'm going to say to you this morning, is it incidental, intentional, or accidental? Was it intentional or was it accidental? Sometimes we drop something. Carelessness. Not just carelessness, I mean just flat out not paying attention. And as parents here, when that happens with our children, tempers rise really fast. But then there are things that happen accidental. They slip. We're sitting there having dinner one night, and I don't know if this has ever happened at your table, but somebody knocks over the glass. And it just happens to still be full. Not a problem if they'd already drank and finished it, but no, they knock it over, and it was Danita. And see, she's not here to defend herself. But when she did that, immediately it was like, I don't think she did that on purpose. I don't think she thought, you know what, right now I'm just going to make a mess for the kitchen table. Well, you know what? Teenagers, sometimes their arms have grown longer than their mind has processed it. It's called growing pains. And their arms, and they go to reach for something, and their mind says your arm is this length, but their arm really is this length. And they knock the glass right over. Well, wait a minute. They don't need to be getting yelled at. That's just part of growing up. But all of a sudden, we're getting bent out of shape over something that was an accident. So that leads me to say this. Is it a mountain? Is it a molehill? And I hope you catch what I just did there. I made the mountain small, didn't I? Because what's one of the biggest mistakes we make as we deal with mistakes? We make mountains out of molehills. Now, it's also dangerous when we make a mountain a molehill. If it's big, it needs to be dealt with as big. If it's small, we deal with it small. And so I want to give you a quick tool. This is a tool that I've used for a number of years to help me work through when things happen. I call it the earthquake gauge. When something happens, there's a mistake that's taking place, then get a gauge on it. If it was an earthquake, how does it register? It's a 1. It's a 10. Well, you know what happens if it's a 10, right? You know anything about the earthquake scale? If it's a 10, the world's come to an end. Because it only really goes to 8. That's where 8 is. We're in major trouble. 7 is, that's not good. I had a situation with a couple. He did something, a mistake, had a little bit of a sin tied to it. He made a mistake. And she was really upset, the wife. She is really upset. She's at my house. And I said, well, give me a gauge on a 10. I said, really? A 10? The world's come to an end? Oh! I called him up. I said, where's your wife? I don't know. I said, she's at my house and she's not happy. Oh, really? Yeah. You know what you did, don't you? Well, yeah. I said, well, if it's an earthquake, what number are you putting on it? Well, okay, maybe I'll put a 4 on it, but I really don't think. He's got a 4 on it, she's got a 10 on it, and guess why? There was a problem. And what he did is because of his underreaction to, and now really her overreaction, he's responding less than he should because she's over-responding because he's not responding like he should be. And we got this major differences. And that's why I'm saying use a tool and get a number. Define it. Because what's got to happen is you got to determine your reaction. You got to determine your reaction. When mistakes happen in a home, you got to determine your reaction. When mom messes up, when dad messes up, when the kids mess up, what's going to be the reaction? And the challenge will be overreacting, underreacting. Now, unfortunately, we have some husbands not here for different reasons today. But I have a thought that most husbands have gotten in trouble because they underreacted like my friend did, where their wives may have overreacted just a little. See, I'm being very careful. But there's, did you know what Kirk did? Okay. What? How come you're not upset about it? I'm like, honey, and Danita's ready to, he's going to become the prodigal son. She's sending him to the hog pen. I mean, she is just, and I'm like, what? Well, then I get in trouble because I didn't react like I should have. All I'm saying is we've got to figure this out because watch this. Here comes your scripture this morning on dealing with mistakes and how we react. Proverbs 18:19. A brother offended is harder to win than a strong city, and contentions are like bars on a castle. And when a mistake takes place, someone is offended. If it's not being dealt with quickly and rightly, you know what's going to happen? The person who's offended will start building walls. And now there's separation. Now there's division. And someone is getting more upset, not over the action, but over the reaction. This is a scary verse, folks. If I'm not dealing with mistakes rightly with my children dealing rightly with mistakes we make in the home, in the workplace, people get offended and they begin to build bars, walls, castles, isolation. That's not a healthy relationship. Now, if we're the ones who are making the mistake, the next step is, let's be real honest here, acknowledge the mistake. And that's what I always expect. Acknowledge the mistake. If I've made a mistake, then own the mistake. Step up, say I did it. From a sin standpoint, a great example of the person who did this finally was David. David said, I have sinned. I have sinned against you. And there are times when we make the mistake. I made the mistake. I didn't do what you asked me to do. I did what you told me not to do. I made the mistake. Acknowledge it. But then even more importantly, the reason for the message today, not that we just minimize mistakes here, but that we make the most of our mistakes. Let's make the most of them. Learn from the mistake. Learn from the mistake. Learn from it. Here's Proverbs 16:22. 16:22. Understanding is a wellspring of life to him who has it. Now, some of us have an understanding of a wellspring. 21st century, I'm not sure a lot of us now know what a wellspring is. I grew up with well springs. I understand the value of the water. So another version says it this way. Understanding there's a fountain of life. Now, there are people who have been looking for the fountain of youth. Well, better than the fountain of youth, there's a fountain of life. And there it is, 16:22. 22, if you get understanding. And understanding is when a person is able to gain knowledge of what's right and what's wrong. And here's a person who now is going to learn from a mistake what's right and what's wrong. And here's the beauty of getting the understanding. You don't have to be the one who makes the mistake. I learned from some of my mistakes. I'm trying to put this message into practice and look back over years. There have been things I did wrong, and again, the stupidity of one day, whatever, why I did it, I'll never know. But it's like putting battery cables on a battery. You know, if you put the negative on the positive on the negative, Michael, what happens to that? I mean, that creates problems, doesn't it? You know, I mean, someone turns this thing and it makes all kind of noise. All right, you got to learn it. The positive goes on positive, negative goes on negative. You learn. When your wife says, I want you to put the seat down on the toilet. Like Martin, I'm slow on that one. But I did learn. I learned. So that was a mistake I kept making. She said, you're going to learn to do this. Well, I can also learn from someone else's mistakes. And I think the wisest person is not the person who learns from their mistake. They learn from someone else's mistake. And here's what Solomon does for us. One of the reasons he writes the book of Proverbs is because he made so many stupid mistakes. The reason he writes Ecclesiastes, he tried all these things that didn't work. And he says, hey guys, sons, come here, daughters, children, get over here. I tried something. Guess what I did? Put my hand on this hot stove and it got burned. You don't have to do that. Clayton didn't know that. Clayton one day wanted to know if a cigarette lighter would burn him.
From a car. A cigarette lighter from a car.
Cigarette lighter from a car. So he pushed the button in, pulled it out, looked at it. I wonder if this will burn me. Ow, it does! Well, I'm like, you could have learned that from somebody else. You didn't have to learn that by yourself. Learn from others. Mistakes provide teachable moments. And when we're talking about spiritual growth in a home, whether it's husband, wife, whether it's parents to children, children to parents, I want you to see mistakes as teachable moments. A lot of you are Red fans. You know Johnny Bench. I got this from Johnny Bench years ago. Johnny Bench said that he was in a baseball game and they lost, and everybody was upset that they had lost, and he was even in tears because they lost. And his dad walked up to him and said, son, the next best thing to winning is losing. What does that mean, Dad? And his dad said, son, you can learn some things today that you would have never learned if you won, because you'd have thought you knew it all if you won. But today you know something. You don't have it all together. Now we can learn. So the next best thing to winning is losing. We get some great moments from mistakes, teachable moments. Now, Proverbs goes on to say this, but the discipline of fools is folly. In other words, you can't tell this person anything. They're not learning anything. You discipline, and they think that's a joke. That is a joke. It is a just complete joke. Only a fool will keep doing the same dumb thing over and over. Now, before I make my next point, I just want to make this statement to you. While mistakes are teachable moments, you know this, right? Mistakes make memorable moments. Don't they? Mike comes home. Christina says, Michael, how was your day? Fine. Anything happened today? No. Okay. Just another day. But if a huge mistake has taken place, Michael will say, you're not going to believe what John did. I mean, that guy, he up there and puts something on the rail, and next thing you know, we've got a disaster out there. I told him not to, but we make a mistake. And right now, you're thinking about the mistakes you made. If it was a normal day, you don't remember it. But the days you made classic mistakes. Imagine you're on a mission trip, and you're halfway around the world, and that means, that jet lag thing sets in. And so you get up in the morning, you got to be somewhere, and your roommate gets up, and they get on down to breakfast, but you've got to get a shower, I'm tired, I'm not going to shower, get a bath, and you start drawing the water, and as you start drawing the water, you're waiting, and so you just kind of lay back on the bed, and you fall asleep. Phone rings. Oh no! The moment your feet hit the floor, it's covered with water. That literally happened to a girl on a mission trip in Budapest, Hungary. She fell asleep while she was drawing her bath in a 4-star hotel. And water ran all the way down to the next floor. And so we're in the room, and I'm the low man on the totem pole for this trip. First time I've ever been on a mission trip. So everybody else is in the room, and boy, is she getting it. And she's got to call her mom. She's got to pay $1,200 because it wasn't their fault. It's her fault. So mom, get you put $1,200 on your credit card so we can pay this hotel. I'm going to rooms. And so everybody finally leaves, and I'm just sitting there with her, and I said, you know what you need to do right now? You really need to laugh about this. And she looked at me like, what? I said, no, seriously, let's just back up for a minute. We're going to take the long view. 20 years from now, you're going to be telling people I was on a mission trip and I overflowed a bathtub and it ruined 2 floors. It cost my mom $1,200 and it was the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life. And I've done some stupid things, but I can tell you, I got the stupidest one of all. I did. And when you be in rooms and people say, who's done the stupidest thing? You'll be able to raise your hand and say, I did the stupidest thing. And everybody be laughing about it. And so some of the mistakes, now, let's make the most of them, but let's minimize them. There's a point. Some things we're making mountains out of should be molehills, and we ought to be laughing at them. Now, there's a component that I do need to bring in today, that if you make a mistake against a person, apologize. Oh, these things. Oh. It's on this one. It's on that one. I'm sorry. 3 words, 2 with the apostrophe. I'm sorry. If I'm going to have a home, in this home that's really going to be healthy, there's going to have to be apologies made. It's acknowledging that you did the mistake and then it's apologizing for it. I am sorry. Say I'm sorry. And then you're the one that's been offended. The mistake took place against you. You know what's got to happen? You know what's got to happen? You've got to accept the apology. You see, for these homes to be healthy, someone's got to say, I forgive you. And that's all there too. Look how big that one is. We forgive. I've never known a home that was healthy that didn't have a whole lot of forgiveness in it. Forgiveness. Here's your scriptures on this one, because this is where the rubber begins really meeting the road. These are some verses, and the reason you have the notes today is to make sure you're seeing these verses so you can keep them with you. He who covers the transgression seeks love. Well, that's huge. Now, that doesn't mean cover up. Cover means we're not bringing it up. We're not bringing it up. We're putting something over it. We're able to move forward. Here we go. Healthy relationships. Proverbs 19:11. A man's discretion makes him slow to anger, and it is his glory. It is his glory to overlook a transgression. Now, regardless of whether this is in the home, or whether this is in the workplace, whether this is in the church, I've got this as one of the most important verses of my life. I'm not saying it's the verse that I practice the most, but I'm telling you, It's a verse that I have to keep looking to. Because here's what I know. People sin against people. People make mistakes. People do things that are wrong. People hurt. I'm hurt, you get hurt. And somewhere along the line, Proverbs 19:11 has to come into play. It says, okay, you know what, we're going to overlook this. Not that we're covering up and saying we excuse you. We're saying, look, we're not going to blow this up. Make this a major issue. We're going to deal with it, but we're not blowing this thing up. Because, see, the next verse is what really makes relationships work. Ephesians 4:32, be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, just as Christ forgave you. Mike did a number of songs today that dealt with God's forgiveness, His extension of love to us. We're not going to forgive others unless we understand how much He's forgiven us. Now, when Christ forgives us, just to remind you, He doesn't always excuse discipline. I sin, Hebrews 12 keeps into play. He's going to discipline me. I say I'm sorry, I still get the discipline. But what He's after is my spiritual growth, and He does move forward. And forgiveness says we're moving forward. We're not moving back. I'm not holding a grudge. I'm not building up a record. I'm not looking to destroy you. We're moving forward. And this is where you've heard me say it before. I say it again. Forgiveness is the glue that holds all relationships together. Any friendship has to have forgiveness. Any family has to have forgiveness. Forgiveness is the glue that holds all relationships together. And that's why it's so big. Now watch this. Did you see there's also another thing in there? While it says we forgive, it says that when we say I'm sorry and all that, it also has that statement in there. I tried to get it as big as I could. Right in the middle it says we do second chances. Are you a second chance person? You know, I really think it shouldn't say a second chance. I think it should say we do multiple chances. I need that. I need that. And for you ladies whose husbands are not here, they need it too. I just want you to know that. For you ladies whose husbands aren't here, they need it. I'm telling you, we need multiple chances. Children need multiple chances. We make mistakes. And that's why I'm going to bring one more word to you this morning. Here's the word. See, we got forgiveness, right? But there's another word that needs to be in our vocabulary that needs to be in this. The word is, in this house, we are forbearing. Forbearing? That's the old King James, yep. We are forbearing. It's used twice in Scripture. Ephesians 4, verse 2. I used Ephesians 4:32, but now I'm back in verse 2. The beginning of this chapter, Paul writes, with all lowliness and meekness, with long suffering, forbearing one another in love. Forbearing. He says it again in Colossians 3, and watch how he ties this one together. Forbearing one another and forgiving one another. They go right hand in hand. If any man has a quarrel against you, even as Christ forgave you, so you also. Forbearing. We know that word to be bearing now. They take off the for. We just say bearing with one another. But again, what does that mean? Bearing with one another means that I put up with you. That's not the idea. It's not that you're putting up with a person. The idea of the word forbearing is holding yourself back. Holding yourself back. Holding yourself back. I like to describe it this way. The margin of for error is wider. How much room does your child, your grandchild, your spouse, your friend, your person you go to church with have to make a mistake? How much room have you given them? Forbearing says there's going to be a wide margin. I'm not going to excuse making mistakes, but I'm going to acknowledge they're going to happen. Because as the one lady said to her pastor every time she spoke with him, Pastor, remember we're human. Now there's a side you want to say, that's an excuse. She was saying, I'm just acknowledging I'm not what I need to be yet. And until we have that with people, if those margins are real small, we're going to squeeze every person out of our lives. Because we're now saying, unless you're perfect, you can't be in my life. That doesn't work, folks. Forbear with one another. Give them space. Because the other side, as we've already seen, some of the greatest moments for our children, especially, to grow, is to make mistakes. They get to learn. They get to develop. Because we who are older have testimonies. What are our most growth moments? When we made dumb, bad mistakes. Some room in there. All this comes down to, again, what kind of reaction am I going to have? What's the golden rule? Treat others the way you want to be treated. So, if I made a mistake, how do I want you to treat me when I make a mistake? I want you to show me compassion. I want you to show me understanding. I want you to realize that I'm not perfect. I'm still growing. I want you to use your heart on me. Yeah. But how do I respond when you make a mistake? Well, I'm more prone to using my head. Can't believe they did that. I can't believe they did that. I'm not thinking about your maybe making a mistake because it was an accident. Can't believe you did that. I'm using my head on you. And here's how it needs to work. It needs to be reversed. As you're dealing with people making mistakes, handle yourself. Handle you with your head. Be hard on your hard head. But handle others with your heart. And you're going to see relationships a lot stronger. Hard on my hard head, but very compassionate with my heart for others. And folks, this is transformational living. Because when people make mistakes, we are prone to be hard on them from our head while wanting them to be easy on us from our heart, their heart. So let's reverse it. People who make mistakes, there it is. It's real. It's real. We do real. We make mistakes. There is one mistake this morning that can't be made. There's one mistake that can't be made. Do not make the mistake of not accepting Jesus. See, there are a lot of mistakes we can overcome, but the mistake of not accepting Jesus is one that if you were to die today and you don't know Him, you spend all eternity in hell. He went to the cross to take care of all of your mistakes, paid the price for every mistake. He rose again and today offers a gift of eternal life. He has paid for every one of your mistakes. But if you don't accept Him, you have to pay for those mistakes for all eternity. That's a mistake you can't afford to make. I can make a lot of blunders with my children, with you, with my wife. I can drop things on my feet. I can drop a beam on a car. We can overcome that. You can't overcome rejecting Jesus. That's a mistake that's unforgivable. Does that make sense? So if you don't know Him today, you need to ask Him into your heart. Then, for human relationships, acknowledge people make mistakes. Because you are a people. And you're the first one who's making a mistake. Father, I pray that you will help us to continue to grow in our relationships with one another. That we will forgive one another. But today, add to our vocabulary forbearing with one another. Giving people space. Holding ourselves back. Giving them that space to grow. And I pray that through the mistakes we will make this week, they will become great teachable moments. And that we will be getting the fountain of life because of those mistakes. Becoming wiser and smarter and better as you work in our lives. I pray this in Christ's name.